My name's Mel and we're here today to discuss the Substance Use Recovery Evaluator, otherwise known as SURE. This is a really cool tool that you can use to track your own recovery, and I'm going to go through the questionnaire with you just to show you how easy that is. So we'll kick off with section A, which is thinking about the last week. So the first question is drinking and drug use, part 1. Again, thinking about the last week. Question 1, I've drunk too much. Now it's multiple answers here, so you could have never, 1 or 2 days, 3 or 4 days, 5 or 6 days, or every day, as you'll see on there. So for me personally, it's for last week, never. So I just tick the box. Question 2, I have used street drugs. So again, this is in the last week. Applying to myself here, it's just the first one, which is never. So going on to question 3, I have experienced cravings. So exactly the same before, never, 1 or 2 days, 3 or 4 days, 5 or 6 days, or every day. And I'd say for myself in the last week, maybe 1 or 2 days. So moving on to part 2, which is drinking and drug use. So still thinking about the last week. Question 4, I have coped with problems without misusing drugs or alcohol. So for me, slightly different answers this time, which is I'll read out the first one. All of the times, the first option, most of the time, a fair amount of the time, a little of the time, or none of the time. So for me personally, in the last week, I've coped with problems without misusing drugs or alcohol all of the time. So that brings us on to question 5. I have managed pains and ill health without misusing drugs or alcohol in the last week for myself, all of the time. So question 6, I've been spending my free time on hobbies and interests that do not involve drugs or alcohol. So again, same answers, all of the time, most of the time, a fair amount of the time, a little of the time, or none of the time. Personally, for me in the last week, it's been most of the time. Now, moving on to section B, this is on self-care, question 7. I've been taking care of my mental health. So for me personally, I have to say in the last week, it would probably be a fair amount of the time. I have been under a lot of pressure and stress, and it's quite good that I recognise that. So I wouldn't say all of the time, I wouldn't say none of the time, but it's something that I'm recognising, so I'd say a fair amount of the time. Question 8. I've been taking care of my physical health. So for me personally, that would be all of the time. Question 9, I've been eating a good diet. So again, all of the time, down to none of the time, I would probably say a fair amount of the time. I think just with my stress over the last week, it has an impact on my eating and not feeling exactly great. So I'd say a fair amount of the time. Moving on to question 10, I have slept well. So for me personally, most of the time. Again, just being a bit down, a little bit depressed and stressed out can sometimes affect my eating, sleeping. So it's good to just recognise it on here. So I'll put most of the time. Question 11, I have a good daily routine. Well, that's something that I work on anyway. So I'd have to say there all of the time. So now moving on. So still thinking about the last week, we go on to relationships. Question 12. I've been getting on well with people. So same answers as before, all of the time, right down to none of the time, and I would say most of the time. So question 13, I have felt supported by people around me. Going from all of the time down to none of the time, I would say most of the time. Again, just recognising my own sort of personal marks here, going by the last week. Question 14. I have been treated with respect and consideration by people around me. So, same answers, all of the time, right down to none of the time, and I would say all of the time. Question 15. I have treated others with respect and consideration. Absolutely, all of the time. Even if I'm feeling not too good myself, I think that is just a personal thing that I feel that people should be treated with respect at all times. So moving on now to material resources, and it's still thinking about the last week. Question 16, I have stable housing. My personal circumstances now is that I do, so that would be all of the time. Question 17, I have used a regular income. I have a regular income, either from benefits, work or other legal sources. Again, hasn't always been the case, but for particularly in the last week, all of the time. Question 18, I've been managing my money well. Well, I think for that one, I'd have to be honest and say a fair amount of the time. So right in the middle, not extreme, all of the time, not none of the time, slap bang in the middle. So outlook on life is next, and it's still thinking of the last week. Question 19, I have felt happy with my overall quality of life. Exactly the same answers, going from all of the time down to none of the time, and I'll probably go second along now, which is most of the time. Question 20, I have felt positive. Again, my own sort of reflection here, I'd have to say most of the time. Question 21, I have had realistic hopes and goals for myself. All of the time. So now we go on to section C, and it's still thinking about the last week, and what we want this time is to please record how important each of the following have been for you. So we have not important, a little important, important or very important. So question 1, reducing or abstaining from drinking or drug taking. So for me, that's absolutely very important. So I just tick the box. Question 2, looking after yourself physically, taking care of yourself, mentally taking care of yourself, having a good diet, sleeping well, having a good routine. Once again, for me, that is very important. Question 3, having good relationships with other people, getting on with people, feeling supported by people, being treated with respect, treating others with respect. Again, it's not important, a little important, important or very important. For me, absolutely very important. So question 4, having resources and belongings, stable housing, regular income and managing money. Not important, a little or very important. For me, absolutely very important. And question 5, nearly finished. Question 5, outlook on life, having a good quality of life, feeling positive and having realistic hopes and goals. Once again, absolutely very important for me. So now we've come to the end of the questionnaire. The next section of the video is going to be an opportunity to see how you can record your own score and track your recovery. Good luck with filling out the questionnaire.
So now we're going to go through how to score your questionnaire. You can see the scoring instructions on the screen. So you need to give each question a score from 1 to 3. For question numbers 1 to 3, if you have answered never or on 1 or 2 days, give yourself a 3. If you've answered on 3 or 4 days, give yourself a 2. And if you've answered on 5 or 6 days or every day, give yourself a 1. It's a little bit different for questions 4 to 21. So if you've answered all of the time or most of the time, give yourself a 3. If you've answered a fair amount of the time, give yourself a 2. And if you've answered a little of the time or none of the time, give yourself a 1. You can see some examples of how to score the questions at the bottom of the screen. So give each question a score, then add them all up to get your total score, which should be from 21 to 63. Part C of the questionnaire isn't scored, and it's there to help you think about what's important to you right now. Remember, everyone's recovery journey is unique. SHORE was designed to help you think about how your life is changing through that journey and how it might get better in the future. You might find that your scores are helpful, but you don't have to use them. The main thing is to think about what you want to change in your life and how you might make those changes happen. So you can follow the links on screen to find out more about SHORE and download a free paper copy of the measure or complete it for free online. You can also download and use our recovery app, SHORE Recovery, for free, which includes a section where you can use SHORE to track your recovery, look at your scores over time and receive personalised feedback each time you complete the measure.
If you use the online or app versions of SHORE, your score will be calculated for you. If you'd like more information on scoring your own questionnaire, we'll now go through the one that Mel just completed.
So, starting with section A,
For questions 1 to 3, if you remember, if the answer is never or on 1 or 2 days, you score 3. If it's on 3 or 4 days, you score 2. And if it's on 5 or 6 days or every day, you score 1. So, question 1. Mel has put never, so that is a score of 3. Question 2, never again, so that would be another 3. Question 3, on 1 or 2 days, and that's another 3. So now on to part 2. So for the rest of the questions, if you've answered all of the time or most of the time, you score 3. If you've put a fair amount of the time, you score 2. And for a little of the time or none of the time, you score 1. So question 4, all of the time, that's another 3. Question 5, all of the time, that's 3. Question 6, most of the time, that's another 3. Question 7, a fair amount of the time, that is a 2. Question 8, all of the time, that is 3. Question 9, a fair amount of the time, that's 2. Question 10, most of the time, that's 3. Question 11, all of the time, that's another 3. Question 12, most of the time, that's 3. Question 13, most of the time, that's another 3. Question 14, all of the time, that's 3 as well. Question 15, all of the time, that's another 3. Question 16, all of the time, that's another 3. Question 17, all of the time, 3. Question 18, a fair amount of the time, 2. Question 19, most of the time, 3. Question 20, most of the time, 3. And question 21, all of the time, 3. And remember, section C is not scored. So now to get your final score, you need to add up the scores for each question. So I'm just going to use a calculator. There we've got 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Then we've got plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And then we've got plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And that is a total score of 60. So Mel has scored 60, and that's how you calculate your score of your questionnaire by hand. And remember, you can find out more by following the links on screen.